Begin today the Gemara Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, the third line where it says V'i Boi Seme. We read this yesterday, but let's again discuss the question that the Gemara was asking over here. The Gemara is discussing the order of the Mishnah. The Mishnah starts off with the halacha of kinuyim, when the person uses different substitutes to the language of a neder. Then the Mishnah spells out a different halacha called yodais, which is when a person does not complete a sentence. Mudrani mimcha, so on. So the Gemara wanted to understand what's going on over here. It starts off with one thing, then it goes into another thing. So the Gemara said before, chsuri mechsere. Really, there's something missing, there's a line missing in the Mishnah. First the Mishnah tells us the halacha of kinuyin, then the Mishnah tells us the halacha of yodais, but then it spells out first the halacha of yodais. And the Gemara gave two pshatim for that. It says either because sometimes the Tana first explains the last point that he just mentioned. Another point the Gemara says is that the Tana decided to explain first the halacha of the yodais, incomplete sentence of a neder, because that's something which you learn from a drasha, and because you learn it from a drasha, that's something that's more chaviv to the Tana to teach first. It's more beloved to teach such a halacha first. That's why he starts off with this first. Okay, so let's say again the words inside. So the second answer here is yodais. This halacha of the yodais, Aidi the Asyan Midrasha, because it's learned out from a drasha of a pasuk, Mefarish Laim Bereisha. So therefore he explains this first. Frag the Gemara, if that's the case, that he wants to first start with something which is learned from a drasha, so v'lifta chadin bereisha. So then if so, let him start with this to be the actual first halacha. Let the beginning of the Masechta be call yodais Nedarim. He's so excited to teach you this drasha, this chiddush, so let him start with this halacha first. Why is he only spelling out the details of this first? Answers the Gemara, no, the way the Tana works is as follows. Miftach pasach bekinuyin. He first starts off with the halacha of kinuyin, which is dairaisa. This is something which we know is true, minatayra. You don't need any drasha for this. It's obvious from the halacha of Nedarim, the way it's written in the Torah. So in other words, a point, bereisha, that's what he starts off with first. In other words, the point is, the Tana's style is, he first wants to start off with something which is obvious, which is known to everybody. Pashut. So he starts off first with the halacha of kinuyin. But then, v'hadar, mefarish yodais asin midrash. But when it comes to explaining the details over here, the details of the chiddush is what he explains first. So both are actually true. On one hand, the Tana wants to first start with what's pashut, what's minatayra. But on the other hand, though, when he wants to get into the details, he will start with the details of the drasha, since that's something which is a chiddush. So that's what he explains first. Yeah, the Gemara is going to discuss that right now. Let's see. Zok the Gemara, ha niche. Wait, let's see. Zok the Gemara, ha niche lemanda amar. So now, before I read the Gemara inside, I mentioned this already before. There's machlekes Rabbi Yechanan and Rish Lakish, where this concept of kinuyin comes from. Rabbi Yechanan says the concept of kinuyin is it's just other languages. It's the same. Like I said, the idea of a kinuy is carbon. Right? Instead of using the word carbon, you can use other substitutes. Kainem, kainach, kainis. What are those words? They're different languages. That's all it is. But then there's another shitta. Rish Lakish, she says chachamim or mesakin, specific l'shainis. Chachamim were the ones that created these words, these substitutes. Kainem, kainach. Why? Why do they exist? So we'll see later in Daf Yud. The Gemara says, or actually the Ran brings it. I don't know if the Gemara says this beferish, but the Ran says here that the point is chachamim didn't want a person should use the word carbon, because when you use the word carbon in the Torah, when it says the word carbon, it says carbon lashem. Person might end up saying the Eibish's name, and if he doesn't actually make the neder properly, he'll say the Eibish's name in vain. So therefore, the Chachamim were the ones that were misakin to use a different word, kainim and so on. So now the Gemara asks, according to Rabbi Yechanan, that says that what are kinuyim? Kinuyim means a carbon, it's just a different language. So then, yeah, what you just said makes sense, that the whole halacha of kinuyim is minatayra. There's no chiddush about kinuyim, it's just saying the same exact neder in a different language. But according to Rish Lakish, that says that Chachamim were the ones that invented these expressions, that a person could use these expressions, and it'll be a neder. So then the kinuyim, you can't say kinuyim are minatayra, because kinuyim are a chiddush that Chachamim invented to use these expressions. So ma'ya kalameimar. So then what are we going to say? What are you telling me that the Mishnah wants to start with the kinuyim because that's minatayra, that's pashut, but it's not so pashut. Chachamim were the ones that invented this. Okay, so the Gemara basically now reinvents this whole thing. The Gemara starts again from the beginning. So the Gemara says like this: Mi katani yadais. Let's go back to the beginning of it. In our Mishnah, the way it's written in the beginning of the Masechta here, does it actually say the words Yadis in the Mishnah? Does it say the halacha of Yadis at all? It doesn't say anything. Right? It just says there's a kinuyim. And then it right away goes into explaining the Yadis. It doesn't actually say the halacha of Yadis in our Mishnah. So the Gemara says, what do you mean? But v'lav chesuri kamechser isla. Didn't we say before that even though it doesn't say in our Mishnah, but it's missing, we have to add that line into the Mishnah. So what the Gemara says now is, but if you're saying that it's missing a line and we're adding something in, so according to Reish Lakish, you know where you're going to add that line? Aktim nami v'tani. So add that line actually in the beginning of the Mishnah. Right at the beginning, before the first line of the Mishnah. And v'tani, and learn our Mishnah as follows. V'tani yadais, learn yadais first. Call Yadis Nedarim Nedarim. First you learn the halacha of Yadis Nedarim, that they're like the Nedarim itself. And then afterwards, V'chol Kinuyi Nedarim Nedarim. And then you learn the halacha of Kinuyi Nedarim Nedarim. So it actually starts off with Yadis, because Yadis is a Chiddush, and therefore it's a drasha, and therefore we start off first with Yadis. And then the Mishnah says, Ve'elu hein Yadis, ha'ayma lechaveiroi, ve'elu hein kinuyim, kainim, kainach, kainis. So the Mishnah is going in order. The Mishnah starts off first with Yadais, then the Mishnah says the halacha of the Kinuyim, and then when it comes to explain the halachais, it also explains it in the same order. It explains first the Yadais, and then it explains the halachas of the Kinuyim. Okay, so according to this answer of Reish Lakish, you actually don't have to say that the Mishnah is starting with the din of Yadais because it's more of a chiddush than the halachas of the Kinuyim. Lav dafka. They're both halachas that are chiddush, that are Chachamim wa Machadish. One is from a drasha, one is the halachas of the languages that Chachamim invented. But as we see from the continuation of the Mishnah, that it explains first Yadais and then it explains the halachas of the Kinuyim, so too when it starts the Mishnah, we're adding in a line, right? So if we're adding in a line, add in the line of the Yadais first, and then you continue on to the halacha of the Kinuyim. That's the order of the Mishnah according to Reish Lakish. Okay, that's the conclusion of the Gemara's discussion regarding the order of the Mishnah. Now the Gemara will continue and discuss we just said that the halacha of the Yadis is learned from a drasha. So the Gemara v'Yadis heichiksiv. Where's the source? Where is this drasha that there's a concept of Yadis for a neder? Says the Gemara, the pasuk says, Ish ki yafli lindoy neder, a person that will spell out and say a neder, nazir lahazer lashem, or he will say to be a nazir. Tanya, so we learned in the Braisa, Nazir, Lahazir, when it says this double lashon, a Nazir, to be a Nazir, why does it use this double lashon? Lasa is Kinuyin Naziris Naziris. From here we learn out that the Kinuyim, the substitutes in the languages of Naziris, are like the Naziris, like the languages of Naziris itself. And the Yadis Naziris Kinaziris. And also I learn from here that the Yadis, that when you say an incomplete sentence for Naziris, it's going to be like Naziris itself. The Ran actually says that these words, the three words here in the Gemara, Kinuye Naziris Knaziris, should be omitted from the Gemara because it doesn't really fit in here. The main thing that we're learning out, or the only thing really that we're learning out from this pasuk, is the din of Yadis, as the Gemara just said. Okay, so the Ran takes that out. So we see here the double lashon, that it said Nazir Lahazir. So from that we learn out the halacha of Yadis by Naziris. The Braisa continues, Ein li ela b'Naziris. So I only know this regarding Naziris. B'nedarim minayin. How do I know that I apply the same thing for every neder? Tamad loima ish ki yafli lindoy neder nazir lahazer. The pasuk says the term of lindoy neder together with the term nazir lahazer lashem. So therefore makish Naziris l'nedarim. I compare the two to each other. Just like regarding a nazir, if you use a yad, incomplete sentence, it'll be a nazir. The same thing is also with a neder. And v'nedarim l'naziros, so I compare naziris to nedarim, and I can compare nedarim to naziris. The Gemara is soon going to, the Bryce here will soon explain that I compare each to each other for different halachas. So what do I compare the nedarim to naziris for? Ma naziros asa b'yadis naziris k'naziris. Just like regarding a nazir, the yad of a nazir is just like the expression of the naziris itself, of nedarim. Asa b'em yadis nedarim k'nedarim. The yad for a neder is the same like the expression of the neder itself. Now the Braisa continues. U'ma nedarim, what do I learn out when I compare Naziris to Nedarim? What do I learn out from Nedarim to Naziris? Ma nedarim, just like when it comes to a neder, over b'val yachal. A person that does not keep his neder, what is he over on? He's over on the aveda that you just desecrated your words. Bal yachal. That's the pasuk that says there. Bal yachal dvarei. U'b'val ta'acher. And also, by a neder, there's another law you could be over, and this is a neder for a carbon. person makes a neder to bring a carbon, if you delay bringing your carbon, and actually this is when you delay bringing your carbon after 3 yomim tovim, so then you're even bal ta'achar l'shalmei. After Naziros, we could apply the same thing by Naziris. Over b'val yachal, a person that doesn't keep what he says to be a Nazir, he'll be over on bal yachal, u'b'val ta'achar. And also you can be over by a Nazir, bal ta'achar, delaying being a Nazir, which will be explained soon in the Gemara. How does this apply? What does this mean that you're over delaying being a Nazir? We'll see soon in the Gemara. Another thing we learn out from a neder. Nedarim, just like when it comes to a neder, the pasuk says that a father is the one that could annul the vows of his daughter. And a husband is the one that could annul the vows of his wife. So too when it comes to a nazir, a father could annul the vow that a daughter makes to be a nazir. And a husband could annul the vows of his wife to be a nazir. This is the end of the Braisa. Now, all the details of this Braisa are going to be explained in the Gemara. The Gemara is going to start with the first point of the Braisa regarding the source of the halacha of Yodais. So what did the Braisa say? That the halacha of Yodais by a Nazir is learned out from the double lashon, because it says Nazir lahazer. The halacha of Yodais by Nedarim is learned from where? Because since it says in the pasuk what lashon of the pasuk again, Linder Neder, right there, so there's a hekesh. We compare it to Nazir. Fragt the Gemara, but why do we have to learn it out this way? Why? What's the difference? By Naziris it uses a double lashon Nazir lahazer, and therefore you say that's the source for the concept of Yodais by a Nazir. So if so, Nedarim nami, by Nedarim as well, haksiv linder neder. It also says a double lashon. If so, v'hakesha lamali. Why are you saying that a neder, you know the halach of Yodais only because you're comparing it to a Nazir? It says a double lashon in its own right by the word neder. Answers the Gemara, ikos of neder lindoir. If the term of the Torah would have been neder, a vow, lindoir, to make a vow, so then kiddukasav, similar to what it says by the Nazir. First it says the term nazir, to be a Nazir, and then it says lihazer, to make a vow, to become a Nazir. So then kiddukasav. Then what you said would be true, that this is an extra lashon here, right? Because when you write first Nazir, I am a Nazir, and then afterwards you add the word lihazer, to make a vow, to become a Nazir. Why are you saying to become after you just said he is? So the same thing if we would say neder, a vow, he said the vow, he made a vow, right? Then you say lindar, to make the vow. That's an extra word. So then you would not need any hekesh. But hashte the chsiv lindar neder. How does the Torah write it when it writes it by neder? It says lindar neder, which basically means to make a vow, that there should be a vow. So here, when the Torah writes it in this way, I say dibra Torah kalashim b'nei Adam. It's not considered to be an extra word. It's not considered to be a double lashon. It's just this is the way people speak, and you find many times in the Torah that it uses this kind of expression. Lindar neder. It says the act first to make the vow of a neder. That's just the way the Torah speaks. Like people speak this way as well. So therefore, this is not an extra word at all. So therefore, we need the hekish to a nazir. Again, what? Hekish, what's the word in English? Yeah. Juxtaposition. Yeah, that's the word. Okay. I think that's the word for hekish in English. Okay. So the Gemara asks on this This whole entire idea that when the Torah writes this term of linder neder is considered to be just the style, the way people speak, and it's not an extra word, it's not so pashut. Because this is a machlokes many times in the Gemara. Could we say this about the words in Torah? Yes, people speak this way, but how about in the Torah? This is a good answer for that opinion that says that when the Torah speaks this way, so then it's not an extra word. It's just using the expression the way people speak. But there's an opinion that says that we can't say that the Torah speaks the way people speak, so therefore it is an extra word. So hi linder neder, my avidle. So now this extra words of linder neder, what are you going to do over here? In other words, what the Gemara is saying is, okay, so we're going to say, like it said in the Braisa, that we learn out the halacha of yadais by a neder from the hekish, from what we learn out what it says by the nazir. But these two words, linder neder, are still going to be extra words. So what are we learning out from these two extra words of linder neder? Says the Gemara, so actually we're going to have to say, according to this man Amar, Dareshlei lasas yadais nedarim kenedarim. According to him, you don't need the hakish. You learn out the idea of yadais nedarim from these words, from the extra words that it says Lindei Neder. That's the source, that the yad of a neder is like a neder. And then I say, Umakish Naziris Nedarim. I learn out the Naziris from Nedarim. Nazir, again, sorry, stop right over there. I learn out Naziris from Nedarim to say that just like by a neder, there's a yad, so to by a nazir there's a yad. Okay, Frek the Gemara, so according to this opinion, Nazir lahazir, Darishlei. According to this opinion, what's the Nazir lahazir? What are we going to learn out from Nazir lahazir? Melamed. Those two words, Nazir lahazir, which are now extra, they're coming to teach me a whole new halacha, which is Shanazirus Chal ala Naziris. When a person makes one neder to be a nazir, a person says Hareni Nazir Hayoim, I'm going to be a nazir today, and then he just repeats. He says again, says a second time, Hareni Nazir, I'm going to be a nazir. So he just made one neder to be a nazir, and he's made a second time. So there would be a svara to say that he only has to be a nazir once. Can't be a nazir second time. So the second time he said it is worthless. But we learn out from here, Nazirus Chal al Naziros, that you made a neder to be a nazir once, and then you said it a second time. So you're going to have to keep your Naziris twice. What's Stam Naziris? Stam Naziris is 30 days. So you're going to have to be a nazir for 30 days and complete it and bring a carbon and then start all over and do it a second time. That's what I learned out from the double lashon that it said Nazir lahazir. Says the Gemara, going back now to the other opinion. According to the other opinion, it says Dibra Torah Koloshim b'nei Yadam, that the Torah speaks in the regular expression of the way people speak, and therefore the words Lindei Neder were not extra. So therefore I had to learn out the din of Yadais from Nazir lahazir. And then I have a hekish to Nedarim, but the words Nazir lahazir are not extra. So from where does this opinion know this new halacha that we just introduced there, that Naziris is Chal al Naziris? The Nazir lahazir darish. So according to his opinion, the extra words of Nazir lahazir, what did he dash from there? Lastis yadis Naziris k'Naziris. As we said before, he learns out from here that there's a halacha of yad regarding Naziris. So if so, Shanaziris Chal al Naziris minole. Where does he know this new halacha of Naziris Chal al Naziris? Says the Gemara, actually, this halacha itself is a machlokes. Could you make one Naziris and then accept upon yourself another Naziris? So we have no question if we'll say that that he follows the opinion that says that when you make one Naziris, a second Naziris will not take effect. At least but if he will agree to this opinion that says that one Naziris will take effect on the previous Naziris, minole. So from where does he know this? The words Nazir lahazir are not extra to teach me this. Says the Gemara, there is actually a place for another drasha here. Why is that? Because Nei Mekra Lizar. The pasuk could have used the term Lizar. Now the word Lizar means the same thing as lahazir.
To abstain.
It means Nazir lahazir. No, it means the same thing. To make a nazir, to make that vow to be a Nazir. The only difference is in Lashon Kodesh, there are many words that could be written or said in a short term or a longer term. Sometimes you have this I think Rashi brings this also in Chumash al Torah. You have a Lashon Kal or a Lashon Koved. So you could add that hey into the word and say lehazir, or you could just say it without the hey, lizar. They both mean the same thing. But the fact that the Torah chooses a more longer way how to say this word, with adding that hey into it, my lehazir, what is the added hey into this word? Shamet minatarti. So here, therefore, you can learn out from this extra word two things. One thing we learn from this extra word is the halacha of yadais. The other extra thing that we learn out from the other halacha we learn out from here is that naziris chal al naziris, that you can make a double naziris. Okay, now the Gemara brings another source for this halacha of yadais. B'marava amri. In Marava, which is in the west, which is west to Bavel and Eretz Yisrael, they would say, "Is Tana de Mapikle Yadais." There is one Tana that learned out the halacha of Yadais min Lindei Neder. He learned it out from the double lashon of Lindei Neder, which means that he's following the opinion that we do not say Dibra Torah Koloshim b'nei Yadam, but we learn it out from this double lashon. But there is Tana de Mapikle. There was another Tana that learned it out from a whole different pasuk. Min Kalayotze mipiv Yasa. Pasuk says when you make a neder, whatever came out of your mouth, you should fulfill. That extra word of kol. Kol hayotzei mipiv means even if you didn't complete your sentence, even if you just said partially to be that neder, that's the yad, that's the handle, and that you have to fulfill it. That's another source. Now the Gemara goes back to the other details that it said before in the Braisa. Omar, what did it say before in the Braisa? Just like when it comes to a neder, if you don't keep your neder, so you'll be over on the lav of bal yachal, desecrating your neder, and bal ta'acher, or delaying your neder. So we compare the same thing as by a nazir. If you don't keep your naziris, you're going to be over on bal yachal and bal ta'acher. Says the Gemara, how a person is over bal yachal regarding a neder when you don't keep a vow you make. That we understand. The Gemara gives a basic, simple example of a neder. A person says, this loaf of bread I'm going to eat, and he didn't eat the loaf of bread, so he didn't keep his neder, so he desecrated his words, the vow he made. So even mishum bal yachal devaray. Elo bal yachal de naziros, but to say that a person is over on bal yachal, that he desecrated his vow when it comes to naziros, heichi mishkachas la, what is the case? And the problem is as follows: Kiv in the Oma Hareni Nazir. When a person says, I will be a Nazir, what happens? So Havalei Nazir, he becomes a Nazir. Now a Nazir is not allowed to eat from grapes or wine and so on. So Ochal Kamle b'bal yochal. If he eats grapes, so which lav is he over? He's over the lav of bal yochal, that he's not allowed to eat from these grapes. Right? Bal yochal, Rashi brings the pasuk over here. It says in the pasuk, mechartzanim va'adzog lo yochal. Shouldn't eat any part of the grapes. That's what he's over on, not bal yachal. And if shasa, if he drank wine, so kamei b'val yishte. He's over on the lav that it says by a nazir, which Rashi here brings the pasuk, kom mishras hanovim lo yishte, that he shouldn't drink. Right, so it's not bal yachal. By naziris there's a different lav. So what does it mean over here that it says that we have a hekesh that is going to be over on bal yachal? Amarove, so Rav answers, lavet olav b'shnei lavin. Yeah, it's taka true. This person is going to be over in both lavin. He's going to be over on the special lav of a nazir, and he's also going to be over on the general lav that it says by every neder. When you make a neder to be a nazir, it's no less than a regular neder. It's also, in addition, a unique neder of a nazir. So you'll be over the bal yochal, bal yishte, but you're also going to be over on bal yachal, just like every other neder. Okay, but now the Gemara says, how about bal ta'acher? Bal ta'acher de naziris heichem mishkachas la. How could you say that there's a concept of a person being over on delaying fulfilling his neder to be a nazir? How does that apply? Kiv in the Amar hareini nazir. The moment a person says that I will be a nazir, havalei nazir, he right away becomes a nazir. Then if so, ochal, if he eats what he's not supposed to as a nazir, kamle b'bal yochal, so he's over on the lav of bal yochal. What's this idea of delaying? He is already a nazir. There's no such a thing there's no concept of delaying when it comes to being a nazir. By a neder, we do understand that. As I mentioned before, by a neder, it's talking about a neder specifically for a carbon, not a neder for a isser. By a neder of a carbon, so there the Torah says you don't have to bring your carbon immediately. You have until 3 Yom Tovim pass. But by a nazir, you become a nazir immediately. There's no such a thing of delaying it. There's no time for this. Says the Gemara, by a nazir as well, you could say, Ba'omer, the person said, L'kisha ertze ehei nazir. Person said, when I want, I will become a nazir. So in such a case, he didn't become a nazir yet. He didn't become immediately a nazir. He said, when I want, I'll be a nazir. So in such a case, if he delays it, he could be over on bal ta'acher. But the Gemara asks in this answer, but if he says, when I want, so then leka bal ta'acher. So then there should be no bal ta'acher because he said, when I want. When I want, that could be in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years. There's no such a thing of bal ta'acher. So what does this mean? So Rava answers, the case here is, for example, the person said, Lo ipater min ha'olam, I am not going to leave this world, I won't pass away, acha ehi nazir. Before I pass away, I'm going to be a nazir. That's the expression the person used. Mm-hmm. So now a person doesn't know when it is that he's going to leave this world. The minahi shaite havalei nazir. So therefore, from that very moment, he has to begin keeping his naziris. Right? Because he doesn't know. So in other words, on one hand, he didn't say clearly, I'm going to be a nazir right now, starting from this moment. He said, I'm going to be a nazir from before I pass away. But because he doesn't know when that moment is going to be, so it's always a suffix. Mm-hmm. So therefore now, we're learning out from the comparison, from a nazir to a neder, that over here we're going to apply the lav of bal ta'acher, that you're obligated to keep your naziris right away. not to delay it. And not to say, I'm not passing away today, I'm passing away tomorrow. You have to keep the Naziris right away. Where do we find this concept that you have to be concerned that when a person says such a thing, that he could pass away any moment? It's like a person that says to his wife, a person says to his wife, here, I give you, this is a get, one moment before I pass away, this get should take effect. So what happens now? If we're talking about a Bas Yisrael that was married to a Kohen. A Bas Yisrael that marries a Kohen is allowed to eat Truma. But the moment the Kohen, the husband, divorces her, she can't eat Truma anymore. So he tells her, this will be a get a moment before I pass away. So the Braisa says, Asura lechal Truma miyad. She's not allowed to eat Truma right away. Why? Because every moment it's a suffix. What happens if he passes away? So then it turns out that she ate Truma at a time when the get already took effect. So at every moment she can't eat Truma anymore. So Alma, from here I see Amrina, and we say, Kol shaita v'shaita dilma mayis. Every moment we say, maybe he's going to pass away. Hachanami, so over here as well, la'al tahav and nazir, he'll immediately have to keep his naziris. The Amrinim, because we say, dilma hashta mayis. Maybe now he's going to pass away. Okay, but let me just clarify the pshat in the Gemara over here. 2 points. First of all, b'nigeya to the case of the get, it's only a suffix. What happens if this woman goes and eats truma, and it turns out that the husband did not pass away a moment later, and therefore the get, now we see, did not take effect? Is she going to be over any isser in eating that truma? No, because the fact is the husband didn't pass away. The whole thing is a suffix. What we're telling her is you're not allowed to go and eat the truma, because what happens if he does pass away? But the whole thing is only a suffix. Over here, when it comes to the case of the Naziros, the Gemara is not trying to say that this is a suffix. What the Gemara is trying to say is that if you use this type of expression of Naziris, depending your Naziris on this, that I'm going to be a Nazir before I pass away, so because it's possible that the person will pass away a moment after, so therefore now the Torah is saying, don't delay it. Now you have an obligation, a din achiyu vadai, that you must start keeping your Naziris now. And if you delay it for the next moment, you're over on the lav of Baal Ta'acher. This is the application of Baal Ta'acher regarding a Naziris. So it's not just a suffix. That's number one. Number two, b'nigeya to the original Baal Ta'acher that it says in the Torah regarding a neder, it's different. By a neder, the Baal Ta'acher is not for the next moment. By a neder, the Baal Ta'acher is 3 yomim tovim, when you make it for a carbon. So it comes out interesting. By a nazir, the Baal Ta'acher, even though the whole source of Baal Ta'acher comes from a neder, and now we're learning out and comparing that it applies by a nazir as well, but by a nazir it's not connected to 3 yomim tovim. By a nazir, it's in this case when you use this kind of expression that maybe the person would pass away the next moment, and therefore the Baal Ta'acher means you got to start keeping it right away. If you delay it even one moment, you're right away over on Baal Ta'acher. So the Ran here says that the truth is that this could apply by a neder as well. If a person makes a neder regarding a carbon, he says Hareini, says a neder that I'm going to bring the carbon miyad. When you add that word miyad, then even by a carbon, you're not going to be over Baal Ta'acher after 3 yomim tovim, you're going to be over the Baal Ta'acher right away. And similar over here by the nazir, when a person uses this type of language, that I'm going to be a nazir a moment before I pass away, so over here, the Baal Ta'acher applies that right away a person has to start acting Naziris and not delay it even one moment. That's the comparison. There's going to be actually a couple of answers here. I don't remember how many, but quite a few answers regarding how Baal Ta'acher applies to a Nazir. This is only the first. There's more answers coming in Mitzvah Shem the next stuff.